Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Garrett Horner. This is stage one of the Volta Catalunya. Now, this race has Tadej Pogačar, one of the four favorites in the European peloton, but it does have a host of really strong climbers throughout the race. The biggest guy, though, that's going to highlight for me has to come from Visma Lease Bikes, the American Sepp Kuss who won the Volta España in 2023. That was just last season. He is the one guy that I think when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield looking at the competition here that might be able to give Tadej Pogačar some kind of run for his money. Otherwise, UAE Team Emirates need to overextend themselves as a team, and then it's open for a host of riders. Enric Mas with Movistar's here, and he's got Nairo Quintana as his teammate. If there's some kind of tactical battles on these climbs here at Catalunya, it's a possibility that Tadej Pogačar, with his UAE team possibly blowing up in these mountain stages, that all of a sudden it could turn into a tactical battle like we've seen so many times early in this 24 season. But he's going to need some help. He needs UAE Team Emirates to mess up or for guys not to perform as well as what we would expect them to perform before the start here on stage one. Now, when the cameras come on, we got 173 kilometers of racing, and the cameras are going to come on with 70 kilometers to go. UAE Team Emirates are at the front. They have 7 riders at the front. It's Dominic Novak up there and Felix Großschartner doing the bulk of the work. Remember, cameras come on at 70. I only like to call the race from what I can visually see. So it looks like, and what I've heard, is that UAE Team Emirates have been on the front chasing the group of 5 that's up the road. In that group of 5, Kenny Ellis on for Cofidis. He's taken himself maximum KOM points up to this point in time in the race. He'll have himself the KOM jersey when it's all said and done. But we know this group of 5's getting caught because they only have a 1 minute 15 seconds when the camera comes on, and we have 7 UAE Team Emirates back there chasing at the front of the peloton. Now, we'll cross the finish line with about 50 kilometers to go, and we see that the peloton's in sight just back there at the bottom of the descent there of this uphill finish line here with 50 kilometers to go. So we know they're getting wrapped up really soon, but we also know what the finish looks like here on today's stage one. If I take you back to last year, it was a remarkable finish between Remco Evenepoel and Primož Roglič, who beat the Belgian rider to win this stage one here at Volta Catalunya last season. It's always an exciting finish. If I take you back to the team buses with UAE Team Emirates before the stage even started, for sure their director sportifs at this point in time when I'm sitting on the couch, I know that they have told Tadej Pogačar this is a stage you can win and you can be in the race leader's jersey at the end of this stage. Whenever you see UAE Team Emirates on the front, whenever I'm watching them on the front, I'm thinking this is a mistake. This is not a stage you have to win. You do not have to pull back 5 guys right now that aren't a threat on general classification because no one up in this group of 5 is a climber of any kind of real quality here at the European peloton. I would let this group go. I'm not opposed to Tadej Pogačar trying to win the stage. It's just not a tactic that I would use, especially when you look back at Paris-Nice and you see how the teams had difficulties at Paris-Nice, where Brandon McNulty was losing a little bit of form at the end. He was very good. He still finished on the podium, but he couldn't follow. Of course, Remco Evenepoel, who most people can't, but Jorgensen, normally the American Brandon McNulty would be on the level of Matteo Jorgensen and couldn't follow him on that last stage. But that's not the only worry. I worry about Marc Soler, who didn't finish Paris-Nice. I worry about Jay Vine, who had problems in Paris-Nice with his form going up and down. Sometimes he's in the front, sometimes he's in the back. And I worry about Almeida, who I haven't seen him ride good during Paris-Nice either. So when we look here at the 7 riders on the front for UAE Team Emirates, I'm thinking, why waste the energy? One more stage victory is not that important to a team with this kind of quality. And wearing the race leader's jersey after stage one, I don't see the reason of spending so much energy on stage one until, if I was the director sportif, I get into stage 2 and see if Jay Vine's 100% on form, see what Sivakov looks like, see if Almeida has gone up in form. That's 3 question marks, and these 3 riders aren't the 3 riding the front. They only have 2 riding the front, and it's Novak and it's Großschartner. And when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, I saw Großschartner go pretty good at Paris-Nice in the later stages, so I know he looks solid. But I don't know Jay Vine, Almeida, and Sivakov where their form's at. But I know Großschartner was good at the end of Paris-Nice. Novak's not a climber, so you're going to put him on the front anyways. But if I'm not certain where Jay Vine's form is after Paris-Nice, and remember, I'm on the Chesterfield here in Bend, Oregon. I'm not in the car or in the team bus, and I haven't looked at the power meters of the riders or spoken to them personally before the race starts. So if the director sportif there for UAE team Emirates asks Jay Vine, hey, are you recovered? Are those problems you had at Paris-Nice, are they going to be a problem here at Catalunya? And if he says, no, I fixed that, I feel good, okay, I save him. But if not, I save Grossschartner and have Jay Vine or possibly Sivakov working before Grossschartner. That's not their plan. They're going to pull this thing back. They're trying to bring everything back because they know with 50 kilometers to go, and we know with 50 kilometers to go, with that 600-meter stair-step climb up to the finish, that when we saw last year's 2023 winner on this stage, Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic sprinted out, we know that it's going to be a perfect stage for Tadej Pogačar. So 50 kilometers to go, everything's almost brought back. We have a sprint time bonus competition coming up with about 30 kilometers to go. And at 31 kilometers to go, we see Ineos is on the front. Tadej Pogačar is a little bit lost, but still within the frame. 7, 8 guys back there behind the 3, 4 Ineos riders at the front, with Egan Bernal sitting third position. They come through the roundabout, and we see Tadej Pogačar has made a little bit of progress and moving up. Then when the sprint starts proper, Egan Bernal has got a little bit of a jump on Tadej Pogačar because he hasn't quite reached the Colombian wheel up there. So Tadej Pogačar gets second, 2-second bonuses. Egan Bernal wins it for a 3-second bonus. And third is De Plus, rounds out the podium up here for the time bonus for a 1-second bonus. Now after this, we're coming up to the last and final climb here of stage 1 of Catalunya. When they're coming into the climb, things are hot and heavy. It's curb to curb. It's been nervous since they crossed the finish line with 50 kilometers to go and wrapped up the break back there. Now as the climb starts proper, we look at UAE team Emirates. Now you got to start to worry. Who's at the front when the climb's starting proper? It's Sivakov and Tadej Pogačar, and that's it when the climb starts. That means there's another 3 UAE team Emirates riders missing because Grossschartner and Novak dropped off before the time bonus sprint. So with 5 guys left and only 2 at the front, I'm asking myself, sitting on the Chesterfield, how much power does UAE team Emirates really have right here? Well, Sivakov rides for about 2.5, 3 kilometers on the climb. Then we're going to see Almeida reach the front here with about 24 point something kilometers to go in today's stage 1. And right away, we see him get on the race radio. When he's getting on the race radio, I can only imagine he's saying, hey, what's happening? This is not the plan. Why am I on the front of the peloton right now? Who's going to look after Tadej Pogačar after the climb? And most importantly, when we come into the last 600 meters of the uphill finish, who is going to lead Tadej Pogačar out if I'm on the front already? Well, Soler arrives at the front, and we got Almeida, Soler, and Pogačar, but no Sivakov. He's gone, and no Jay Vine. Now, I'd seen Jay Vine near the front after or just before the climb started a little bit, when we're still kind of false flat going up to the climb, but I haven't seen Jay Vine doing a bulk of work, and Sivakov probably rode 2.5, 3 kilometers, like I said, before Almeida got on the front and started panicking, what I believe panicking, talking on the race radio, saying, how are we going to finish this off after the climb summits with 20 kilometers to go here on stage 1 if it's just myself at the front with Tadej Pogačar and Soler there? There's just not enough numbers at that moment. Now, things get a little nervous in the peloton. They're curb to curb. We see Stevie Kreiswick get to the front for just a second in front of Almeida. He'll pull off the front and drop back. Almeida's back on the front, setting tempo with Marc Soler and Tadej Pogačar. It's curb to curb, though, so you know they're going fast, because when we look at the back of the group, Brian Coquard's coming off there for Cofidis, and Rick Catello, the American kid from Arizona, he came off just before him for Israel Premier Tech. So the speed's going pretty good, but the peloton is still about 80 riders. So about half the peloton still left, so it can't be mock speed at the front. And when it's curb to curb, that reinforces my belief that it's not mock speed, but certainly it's going fast enough if we see Brian Coquard going out the back. Now, things get nervous with about 800 meters to go. We see Soudal Quickstep get on the front, but then we see Marc Soler. The Solerism is here on stage 1 of Catalunya, and he's putting his mug on the front of the peloton here, but he's got Tadej Pogačar latched onto his wheel with about 300, 200 meters to go to the summit of this climb. Guys, they are not racing for KOM points right here for Tadej Pogačar, if that's what you heard your commentator say, because Tadej Pogačar is not interested. They're racing to get over the top of this climb because it's a crazy, difficult, technical descent, and we'll see Soler win the battle for front line here of the peloton starting down the descent, and then we're going to see Tadej Pogačar second, and Sepp Kuss, the American, the winner of the Volta a España, the second American to win the Volta a España, is sitting right behind Tadej Pogačar as the descent starts proper. Almeida's probably 5th, 7th spot back there, and he'll find his way back up to the front of the peloton. He'll get up there and we'll see the first attack after he's pulling for multiple kilometers, dropping down this crazy technical descent here on stage 1 until about 12 kilometers to go. Then the first attack comes from Soudal Quickstep. Soudal Quickstep throws in a huge attack, but Almeida is digging deep. The Portuguese rider is riding strong. He's got some form, but guys, he went all the way up the climb and he's been dropping down the descent now for about 8 kilometers on the front of the peloton, going Mach speed, trying to keep Tadej Pogačar at the front of the peloton. He'll bring back the Soudal Quickstep rider. Then we'll see Soler jump on the front after some more work from Almeida on the front of the peloton. Soler gets on the front right at the right time as the bump in the road starts to go up. Soler's driving at the front of the peloton. Then we get the next tack from Intermarché. Intermarché's Call Me Jane is going up the road, and Almeida has to pull it back as Soler loses the front of the peloton after about 1.5 kilometers only riding at the front. This is telling me warning signs left and right all over the place that we don't know what can be predicted at the finish of this race, because Tadej Pogačar's not going to have any teammates left. If Soler just dropped with 8 kilometers to go, Almeida's on the front and he's already done at least 10. If we count the kilometers coming up the climb, he's probably at 15. So Almeida has done his job here for Tadej Pogačar, but he's done it too early. He didn't have a choice because they didn't change plans for UAE team Emirates in the car, but Almeida is done on the front after we start seeing when he pulls Call Me Jane back, and then we see Israel Premier Tech get on the front. That's Nick Schultz and Stephen Williams. They're sitting first and second. Tadej Pogačar is still at the front. Soudal Quickstep, I believe that's Mari van Savenot right there. And then behind we start seeing, of course, Visma, Lisa Bike guys lined up there at the front too. But we see Michael Woods, Israel Premier Tech, just a little further behind that, probably in the top 10. That's 3 Israel Premier Techs in the top 10. We got about 3.5 kilometers to go. Nick Schultz is on the front. And as we come into the town with just under 2 kilometers to go, it's going to get even more technical than that descent, that twisty, curvy, fast 70, 80 kilometer an hour descent back there. Now we're coming into the town. The speeds are going to slow down, but it's going to get even more technical. 1.3 kilometers to go. There's a hard left turn. We see the back of the peloton coming through this narrow fenced off section here of the city streets, and we know it's got to be chaos at the front. The cameras come back with 1.1 kilometer to go. Nick Schultz is going solo, guys. Stage 1, Israel Premier Tech's going solo. Stephen Williams has sat up and opened up the gap to his teammate. Nick Schultz, I'm sure didn't plan it, but when he looked back, he sees he's got the gap and he punches it. Behind, it's Attila Valters for Visma Lisa Bike. That's going to have to be the guy that's going to close this gap if they want to close it fast. But Nick Schultz knows he's got a bit of an advantage, and it's a crazy technical turning into the towns here before you start the last 600 meters. It's about 800 meters to go. Looks like Soudal Quickstep has come to the front because Nick Schultz is still going solo with about a 5-second gap up front. Now it starts going curb to curb in the back. We're hitting 600 meters to go. Nick Schultz knows he's got to find some kind of extra energy in the legs with 600 meters to go, because this is the difficult finish. That's stair-stepping all the way up. I'd call it about 4%, but it could be sections of 5. It's going to be hard for Nick Schultz. He accelerates again. Then with 400 meters to go, we look at the back of the peloton's crashing back there. Huge crash in the peloton. That'll hold up Egan Bernal, but it's not holding up Tadej Pogačar. He got a little swarmed, and he was sitting second row as Bora Hansgrohe and Gita threw an attack, but then Tadej Pogačar found his way out. He's moved into but just behind Bora Hansgrohe, and they're starting to close up to Nick Schultz. It's 300 meters to go, and Tadej Pogačar throws in his acceleration. Nick Schultz is hitting 150. He's looking back over his shoulder. He's panicking right now because he knows it's the Slovenian Tadej Pogačar that's coming fast, and his teammate that was on Tadej Pogačar's wheel, Stephen Williams, as they're opening up a gap on all the GC favorites in the peloton, because Sergio Gita had started to blow, and then no one came around the rider back there from Bora Hansgrohe. So now a gap to Stephen Williams is sitting third. 50 meters to go. We're seeing Nick Schultz. He's still starting to panic, and he's throwing in everything he can. 25 meters to go. Nick Schultz looks slightly over to the left because you know his legs are cramping. Realizes Tadej Pogačar's moved up near his back wheel, so he throws his bike with a couple meters to go for stage 1 victory here for Israel Premier Tech's Nick Schultz. Big victory here at the World Tour level, stage 1 of Catalunya. Tadej Pogačar crosses the line almost with a shot at winning today's stage 1 to get second. And Stephen Williams gets third on the stage with a 2-second gap over all the rest of the peloton back there. Everybody that crashed, of course, got same time because they're under 3 kilometers to go, but lost 2 seconds to Tadej Pogačar, Steven Williams, and Nick Schultz that'll find himself in the race leader's jersey. Now, when it's all said and done, what happened to UAE Team Emirates? This is the same thing if I take you back to Milan-San Remo. They timed it all wrong. They got the power wrong because a couple riders didn't perform. Milan-San Remo, those 2 riders, Diego Ulisses didn't perform, and Mark Hirschi didn't perform the way their director sportifs had hoped for at the start of Milan-San Remo. Here on stage 1, it was Jay Vine and I think Sivakov that didn't quite perform. I know Sivakov was up there at the start of the climb, but a rider of this quality on a team like this is the #1 team ranked in the world. Not my ranking, that was the UCI rankings, but UAE Team Emirates are a dominating team, and throughout Paris-Nice, Milan-San Remo, and now here at stage 1 at Catalunya, they've had 2 riders, if not 3, 4, or 5, whose forms have disappeared throughout those stage races and one-day monument races at Milan-San Remo that the director sportif planned on. If Jay Vine goes better up the last climb, and that last climb was 8 kilometers long, not super difficult, right? It was only about 5%. The finishing part pitches of 8%, but you had about 80 guys. That's half the peloton, and you don't have Sivakov there, and you don't have Jay Vine, who I'm sure the director sportifs, and I bet Almeida, when he was getting on the front with his radio going, guys, why am I on the front of the peloton right now? He's on the front. That means Tadej Pogačar has no one to lead him out. And when you look at the split where Nick Schultz went with just over 1 kilometer to go and crossed under 1K with a lead on the peloton behind, Attila Valters, I think he actually did the right tactic. You could say, Chris, Attila Valters needed to close that gap. He was the one guy that was there for the American Sepp Kuss. But if I'm Visma Lease Bike, I'm not closing the gap just so I can give Tadej Pogačar a shot at winning this stage and gaining 10 seconds. I'm using Attila Valters and Sepp Kuss as a tactical advantages because Pogačar is solo up there at the front. So if he does pull, possibly you could finish at the same time with him here on stage 1, or possibly even get a time bonus and beat him to the sprint if he had to pull too early. Now, of course, he waited all the way to about 300 meters to go, and then lit everybody up as we expected with Tadej Pogačar. But if I'm Valters, I don't pull that back. If I'm Sergio Higuita, you're going a little bit too late. I don't know who you were leading out back there at 500 meters to go when you jumped, when the climb started proper, but you end up leading out Tadej Pogačar, and he got time bonuses plus a 2-second gap on the peloton. That's an 8-second benefit after here at stage 1. Now, like I said, if I'm UAE Team Emirates, I would have never ridden for the stage win here on today's race. I would have kept the break in check, and then I would have made the other teams, if they want to win the stage, you guys ride. Sure, I'll ride one guy with you, but I'm not going to ride the whole stage because I don't know where the form of Jay Vine is after Paris-Nice. I don't know for sure how Marc Soler is after Paris-Nice that he didn't finish. I don't know Almeida where he's at after Paris-Nice, where his form wasn't that good and he was getting dropped most of the stages. So when you're coming in with 7 guys, that's the beauty of what it's like in the current peloton, the current time and age of the peloton. Because back in my day, you had 10. When you had 10, you could blow guys left and right and still have 2, 3, 4 guys with your leader for the last 600 meters. But here in the modern day peloton in Europe, when you only have 7 guys, your tactics have to be perfect, and UAE tactics have not been able to predict the fallout and lack of form for multiple riders throughout big-time races, Paris-Nice, Milan-San Remo, and here on stage 1 of Catalunya. Now, how will this affect Tadej Pogačar? Because tomorrow is the first big summit stage here on stage 2 of Volta Catalunya, just over 180 kilometers. You can't mess up. You cannot mess up, and you cannot have more riders failing, or Tadej Pogačar is going to be isolated on these last climbs. Every year when I did Catalunya, I could tell you these last climbs could turn into tactical battles really quick because it's never just super, super steep for 10 kilometers long. It's not the Lianguru here in Volta Catalunya. It's more softer climbs. Yes, I know they get steep at times, but they're softer a little bit, and as I always say, when the climbs come down, whoever's trying to win, the strongest rider, everyone starts coming up to them, which means if he doesn't have a strong team, Tadej Pogačar in this example, if his team falters on these climbs, it's going to turn into a tactical battle. And if Enric Mas from Movistar's on form, you know he's going to win. Mikel Landa from Soudal Quickstep along with Ilan van Wilder, he's going to be motivated to do something. Sepp Kuss is going to be there to attack Tadej Pogačar. There's going to be a host of top quality GC riders here to attack Tadej Pogačar if his team keeps coming up short with riders dropping off earlier than what's expected in the riders meeting. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Tomorrow, stage 2 is going to be a big one. I'll see you real soon.